Daddy, Is It Okay to Cry? Written by Datario Yancey and illustrated by Savannah Ely. Ben would cry a lot. He lived with Mommy and Daddy who loved him a lot. They were always glad and hardly ever sad, but that never stopped Ben from getting upset. Ben would cry if someone took his toy. He would cry if he hurt himself. He would even cry if he hurt someone else, but never had he seen Daddy cry. As Ben grew up, Daddy would tell him not to cry. Ben never understood why Daddy would tell him that. Maybe only girls get to cry, and that's the reason why. However, one day Ben finally saw Daddy cry. Ben could not believe his eyes. Could it be that someone took Daddy's toy? Or maybe Daddy hurt himself or even someone else. It hurt Ben to see Daddy so blue. What was Ben to do? Perhaps he should cry too? What do you think? Ben finally figured out what made Daddy so sad when he had really hoped that Daddy would feel glad. In the hallway, Daddy sat Ben on top of a stool, hoping he would not look like a fool. Daddy explained that Grandma had to leave, which is really whack, when Dad hoped that she would really come back. Ben asked Daddy, why do people leave? What do they get to achieve? Daddy replied, I don't know. They both stared at each other. But then Ben asked Daddy if he was very sure that Grandma would never come back. And Daddy replied, no, not ever, but that was really clever. Ben asked Daddy, is it okay to cry? Daddy nodded, yes, and they both cried. Then Granddad burst through the front door and hit Daddy with his cane. Boop, you old kook, Daddy says. Now look at you crying when you told Ben to stop. Daddy, when I was younger, you told me to hold back my tears. Now crying is one of my biggest fears. Crying was just a way of expressing myself so that I can feel good again. Ben, don't you see? Please forgive me, Daddy pleaded. I wish I could have said this back then. I wish I could have said this back then. Although crying is a good way to show how you are feeling, talking may be a better way to get out the feeling. Some of you cry sometimes. I know I do. Daddy, though we both may feel sad, I do feel very glad. The end.